Every family has its tales, whispered secrets that bind generations. In my family, the most persistent tale was that of my great-great-grandfather, a renowned astronomer whose brilliance was overshadowed by what many deemed his descent into madness. It was said that in the twilight of his career, he discovered a mysterious signal, a beacon from the cosmos that he believed was an attempt at communication by an extraterrestrial civilization. This claim, met with ridicule by his peers, led to his professional ostracization and personal obsession. Inherited curiosity, or perhaps the desire to vindicate the family name, led me to the attic of our ancestral home. There, among dust-covered trunks and faded photographs, I found his journals and the peculiar device he constructed to communicate with the stars. The device, a complex assembly of brass gears, glass tubes, and wire coils, was far more intricate than I had imagined. It was a testament to his genius and his madness. As I thumbed through the journals, a sense of connection, across the chasm of time and space, emerged. His meticulous notes, once dismissed as the ramblings of a man lost to fantasy, now appeared to be the work of a visionary. He spoke of patterns in the static, a language hidden within the cosmos, waiting to be deciphered. With each entry, his excitement grew, a palpable sense of being on the cusp of something monumental. And yet, alongside this excitement was a creeping sense of isolation, as the world outside dismissed his discoveries. Compelled by a force I couldn't explain, I set up the device in my own study, amidst the technological conveniences of modern life that would have seemed like magic to my ancestor. Under the soft glow of electric light, I initiated the device, half expecting nothing but silence. To my astonishment, it hummed to life, resonating with a faint, pulsating light that seemed to dance in tune with the distant stars. Night after night, I sat before the device, headphones clamped over my ears, listening to the whispers of the universe. It was as if I had tapped into a conversation that had been ongoing for millennia, waiting for someone to finally listen. The signals were cryptic, patterns of sound and light that defied easy interpretation, but I was determined to understand, to bridge the gap between my great-great-grandfather's dreams and reality. What I discovered was both exhilarating and terrifying. The signals were not mere cosmic noise, but the deliberate transmissions of an intelligent alien race. My great-great-grandfather had been right all along, but the truth of his discovery was far more profound than anyone could have imagined. These beings, whoever they were, had been reaching out across the void, patiently waiting for a response, for someone to break the silence. As the weeks turned into months, my life outside the study began to blur. Relationships, responsibilities, the ebb and flow of daily life all faded into the background. My world narrowed to the crackle of static, the flicker of lights, and the slow unraveling of a cosmic mystery that had chosen me as its confidant. In this solitude, I began to understand the weight of my great-great-grandfather's legacy. It was not just the discovery of the signal that defined it, but the unyielding pursuit of knowledge, the courage to reach into the unknown. And as I delved deeper into the communications, decoding fragments of the alien message, I realized that this legacy was not just about discovery. It was a warning, a beacon not of hope, but of impending darkness. The realization dawned on me too late. The stars, once symbols of wonder and mystery, now foretold a looming threat. As I pieced together the message from the cosmos, the full scope of the alien intention became clear. They had been watching, learning, and waiting. Our first contact was not to be a meeting of minds, but a prelude to invasion. And so, under the same stars that had guided explorers and dreamers across the ages, I found myself at the precipice of an unimaginable future. The legacy of my great-great-grandfather, once a source of familial shame, had become my burden to bear. I alone knew of the coming storm, a storm heralded by whispers from the dark reaches of space, a storm that threatened to engulf our world in shadows. As days melded into nights, my world contracted to the confines of my study, illuminated only by the soft glow of the mysterious device and the dim light of my desk lamp. The initial thrill of discovery had evolved into a consuming obsession. The Vok'tar Codex, as I had begun to call the compilation of patterns and transmissions decoded from the signals, lay spread across my desk, a testament to my unyielding quest for understanding. The more I uncovered about the Vok'tar, the more I realized the depth of their knowledge about us. It was as if they had been shadowing humanity through every step of our evolution, learning not just our languages but the very essence of what it means to be human. Their communications, complex patterns of light and sound that I had painstakingly decoded, revealed a chilling truth. They had not just been observing us, they had been studying us, preparing. I found myself wrestling with a myriad of emotions: fear, fascination, and a profound sense of invasion. The idea that an alien race could know us so intimately, could peer into the corners of human existence we considered uniquely our own, was unsettling. Yet, I could not deny the intellectual allure. The Vok'tar Codex was a puzzle of cosmic proportions, each piece I placed bringing me closer to understanding not just the intentions of the Vok'tar but perhaps the potential of humanity itself. My days became a ritual of analysis and interpretation. I surrounded myself with ancient texts on linguistics, cryptography, and astrophysics, seeking anything that might shed light on the Codex. The device, my bridge to the Vok'tar, hummed with a constant, pulsating energy, as if alive with the voices of a distant world. At times, I fancied it was speaking directly to me, guiding my hand as I worked to unravel the secrets it held. The breakthrough came on a night that felt no different from any other. As I pored over a particularly complex sequence of signals, a pattern emerged, a key unlocking the language of the Vok'tar. It was a moment of pure elation, a rush of adrenaline that made my hands tremble. The Codex, once a collection of enigmatic symbols and sounds, began to speak to me in a language I could understand. I was no longer merely an observer. I had become a participant in a dialogue that spanned the void of space. But with understanding came a growing sense of foreboding. The Vok'tar's messages, now clear, spoke of their admiration for our planet's diversity and resources, but also of their intentions. They viewed Earth not as a world to be shared, but as a prize to be claimed. Their study of humanity was not born of curiosity, but of strategy. They had been preparing for an inevitable confrontation, viewing us not as equals, but as obstacles to be overcome. The weight of my discovery was crushing. I had envisioned myself as a pioneer, a bridge between worlds. Instead, I had become a herald of doom. The knowledge contained within the Vok'tar Codex was a double-edged sword, one that held the potential to unite humanity in the face of a common threat, but also one that confirmed our worst fears. We were now alone in the universe, and those who shared it with us saw us not as neighbors, but as adversaries. As the reality of my situation settled in, I knew that I could not keep this knowledge to myself. The world needed to be warned, humanity needed to prepare. But as I sat in the dim light of my study, surrounded by the scattered pages of the Codex, I wondered, would anyone believe me? Or would I, like my great-great-grandfather before me, be cast aside as a madman, doomed to watch helplessly as the shadows of the Vok'tar loomed ever closer? As the world outside continued its oblivious dance, my own universe had contracted to the confines of my study, where the whispers of an ancient race echoed off the walls, filling the air with a sense of impending doom. The realization that the Vok'tar were not just observers but potential invaders had cast a shadow not only over my research but over my very existence. I felt isolated, a lone guardian of a terrible secret that could alter the course of human history. Each night, as I sat by the device, decoding more of the Vok'tar communications, the weight of my discovery bore down on me. I was torn between the urge to shout my findings from the rooftops and the fear that I would be met with the same scorn and disbelief that had plagued my great-great-grandfather. The irony of our shared fate was not lost on me, we, who had reached out to the stars, only to find ourselves ensnared in a cosmic web from which there seemed no escape. The device had become my constant companion, its pulsating light a beacon in the darkness of uncertainty. But as familiar as it had become, it now seemed foreign, a portal through which the eyes of the Vok'tar could watch me, assessing my every move. Paranoia crept into my thoughts, whispering that I was no longer in control, that my actions were being guided by an unseen hand. Amidst this turmoil, I continued my work, deciphering the communications with a sense of urgency. The Vok'tar's messages had taken on a new tone, one of anticipation, as if the final pieces of their plan were falling into place. They spoke of Earth with a cold detachment, a world ripe for the taking, its inhabitants mere obstacles to be overcome. It was clear that their patience, once thought to be limitless, had its bounds, and the time for their arrival was drawing near. The nights grew longer, the lines between day and night blurred as I delved deeper into the Vok'tar Codex. My health declined, my mind frayed by the constant exposure to the alien language that seemed to worm its way into my very thoughts. Sleep eluded me, and when it did come, it was fraught with nightmares of shadowy figures descending from the sky, their intentions as dark as the void from which they came. It was during one of these restless nights that I received the first indication that the Vok'tar's arrival was imminent, The device, which had been a steady presence in my study, began to emit a new pattern of lights, a sequence that I had not seen before. Frantically, I searched the codex for any reference to this signal, my heart racing as the truth dawned on me. This was not a message, it was a beacon, a herald of the beginning of the end. In that moment, I knew that the shadows that had lingered on the edge of my consciousness were now stretching across the earth itself. The time for preparation, for warnings, had passed. The Vok'tar were coming, and there was nothing I could do to stop them. As dawn broke, casting a pale light through the windows of my study, I sat in silence, the device before me no longer a symbol of discovery, but a portent of doom. The shadows over Earth were no longer metaphoric, they were real, and they were closing in. The realization that I had played a role in this unfolding tragedy was a burden I knew I would carry to my grave. The only solace I found was in the hope that humanity could unite in the face of this unprecedented threat, that perhaps, in our darkest hour, we would find our greatest strength. The day the skies went dark is etched into my memory with a clarity that time cannot erode. It began like any other, with the sun rising over the horizon, casting its gentle light upon the world. But as the morning progressed, an unnatural shadow fell across the land. It was as if the sun itself had been obscured by an unseen hand, plunging the world into a premature twilight. I rushed to the window, my heart pounding in my chest, and what I saw will haunt me for the rest of my days. Above, the once clear sky was now filled with the colossal silhouettes of the Vok'tar ships. They were unlike anything I had ever imagined, vast, dark structures that blotted out the sun, their surfaces alive with the eerie pulsating light that had become all too familiar. The streets below were thrown into chaos. People poured out of their homes and workplaces, staring up in horror and disbelief. Cars stopped in the middle of the road, their drivers abandoning them to gaze at the sky. The sounds of panic and confusion rose in a cacophonous tide, a primal reaction to the unknown. I should have been afraid, but in that moment, there was only the hollow resignation that comes with the realization of one's worst fears. The invasion, long anticipated in the quiet of my study, was now a reality. The Vok'tar, whose intentions I had come to know all too well, had arrived. The air was filled with a strange, electrifying energy, a precursor to the events that would unfold. Suddenly, the sky lit up with brilliant flashes of light as the Vok'tar ships began their descent. It was a display of power meant to awe and intimidate, and it achieved its purpose. Across the city, people fell to their knees, some in prayer, others in despair. In the days that followed, the world as we knew it crumbled. The Vok'tar wasted no time in asserting their dominance. Their technology was beyond our understanding, their capabilities beyond our wildest fears. Buildings that had stood for centuries were reduced to rubble in an instant, monuments to human achievement erased as if they were nothing. I watched from my window, a silent observer to the end of an era. The Vok'tar ships hovered over major cities, casting long shadows that seemed to drain the life from everything they touched. From them descended beings of a form that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. They moved with a purpose and efficiency that left no room for resistance. The world's militaries, for all their might and resolve, were powerless in the face of the Vok'tar onslaught. Our weapons, so advanced and lethal in our own conflicts, were rendered obsolete by shields that nothing could penetrate and weapons that could dismantle matter at a molecular level. As the days turned into weeks, the initial panic gave way to a desperate struggle for survival. Humanity, so long divided by borders and beliefs, was united in its fight against a common enemy. But even in unity, we were fragmented, scattered remnants of a once great civilization trying to find our footing in a world that was no longer ours. The invasion, swift and merciless, was not the beginning of a war but the end of one that we did not know we were fighting. We had reached out to the stars in search of answers, of companionship in the vast cosmos. Instead, we had invited our demise. In the aftermath of the Vok'tar arrival, the Earth was transformed. Cities that once teemed with life now stood silent, monuments to the swiftness with which everything we had built could be taken away. The world, our world, was no longer our own. I watched from my vantage point, a spectator to the end of days. The Vok'tar moved through our cities with indifference, their advanced technologies dismantling our defenses as if they were made of paper. The air was filled with the sound of their ships, a constant, low hum that had become the soundtrack of our subjugation. The streets below, once bustling with the noise of human activity, were now eerily quiet. The occasional sound of resistance fighters, the last defenders of our fallen world, echoed between the buildings, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. But even as they fought, we all knew it was in vain. The Vok'tar's response was swift and merciless, quelling any hope of a successful resistance. I found myself moving through the city, drawn to the heart of the conflict. Around me, the signs of humanity's last stand were everywhere. Barricades hastily erected, buildings repurposed as fortresses, and the faces of the people, marked by a resolve that defied their circumstances. It was a resolve I shared, a burning need to do something, anything, to reclaim even a sliver of the world that had been stolen from us. The Vok'tar had established control centers in the ruins of our cities, from which they orchestrated the remaking of our planet. These centers were heavily guarded, impenetrable fortresses that symbolized the futility of our struggle. Yet, it was towards one of these centers that I found myself drawn, compelled by a mix of desperation and defiance. As I approached, the scale of the Vok'tar's presence became apparent. Their technology was not just advanced, it was alien, operating on principles that defied our understanding. The control center was a monolith, a towering structure that seemed to absorb the light around it, casting a shadow that chilled the soul. Infiltrating the center was a suicide mission, and yet, it was one I was willing to undertake. If there was any chance of finding a weakness, any hope of turning the tide, it was worth the risk. Inside, the scene was surreal, a fusion of Vok'tar technology and the remnants of our own, a stark reminder of what we had lost. I moved through the corridors, avoiding detection, until I reached the heart of the center. There, I found what I had not dared to hope for, a glimpse into the Vok'tar's plans for our world. Screens displayed maps of the Earth, marked with areas of strategic importance, while others showed the progress of terraforming efforts, the reshaping of our planet into something unrecognizable. It was in that moment, surrounded by the cold machinery of our conquerors, that the true depth of our defeat became clear. The Vok'tar did not see us as enemies to be vanquished but as obstacles to be removed, a minor inconvenience in their grand design. Our resistance, our struggles, were nothing more than the last spasms of a world on the brink of oblivion. And yet, even as despair threatened to overwhelm me, I could not surrender to it. For in the darkest of times, the human spirit shines brightest. Across the planet, in pockets of resistance and in the hearts of those who refused to give up, the fight continued. It was a fight not just for survival, but for the very essence of what it meant to be human. The fall of humanity was not just a tale of defeat, but a story of resilience, a testament to our refusal to go quietly into the night. And as I made my way out of the control center, determined to join the fight, I knew that this story was far from over. For as long as there was breath in our bodies, there was hope, and where there was hope, there was the possibility of redemption, of a future where the shadows that had fallen over the earth would be lifted, and humanity would rise once more. In the years that followed the fall, Earth became almost unrecognizable. The Vok'tar's terraforming efforts had reshaped the landscape, erasing centuries of human history in the process. Yet, despite the transformation of the world around us, the spirit of humanity endured. I found myself among the remnants of our kind, scattered across the globe in hidden enclaves and secluded refuges. We were the survivors, the last witnesses to the world that once was. Our days were filled with the struggle for survival, each moment a testament to the resilience that had defined our species since time immemorial. As I looked upon the faces of those around me, I saw not just despair but a fierce determination to reclaim what had been lost. Stories of the invasion, of the days before the fall, were passed down like sacred texts, a reminder of our origins and a beacon of hope for the future. In the telling of these tales, we kept the memory of Earth alive, a spark in the darkness that the Vok'tar could not extinguish. The device, my connection to the Vok'tar and the instrument of our downfall, remained with me. It was a constant reminder of my role in the events that had unfolded, a burden I bore with a heavy heart. Yet, it also served as a symbol of resistance, a tool that might one day help us turn the tide against our conquerors. Over time, I became something of a chronicler, documenting our struggle, our losses, and our victories, however small. My writings, etched onto whatever scraps of material I could find, were a record of our existence, a defiance of the Vok'tar's attempts to erase us from history. Among the scattered pockets of humanity, a plan began to take shape. Drawing on the Vok'tar technology we had managed to salvage and the ingenuity that had always been our species' greatest asset, we prepared to fight back. It was a daunting task, one that required every ounce of our collective will and resources. But the alternative, to fade quietly into the night, was unthinkable. The years turned to decades, and our resistance grew. Each small victory against the Vok'tar was a beacon of hope, a signal to others that the fight was not over. And as our numbers swelled, so too did our resolve. Now, as I sit to record this final entry, the dawn of a new era is upon us. The air is filled with the electric buzz of anticipation, a feeling I had thought lost to the past. Today, we take our stand, not just as scattered survivors, but as a united humanity ready to reclaim our home. The outcome of this battle is uncertain, but one thing is clear: the echoes of humanity will not be silenced. Our story, etched in the ruins of our world and in the hearts of those who continue to fight, will endure. For as long as there is breath in our bodies, there will be hope, and with hope comes the possibility of a future where the shadows that have fallen over the earth are lifted, and humanity rises once more. So, to those who find these words, know this: we were here. We lived, we loved, and we fought with every fiber of our being. Our story is a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is light. And though the world may change, the essence of what it means to be human remains, a beacon of hope in the vastness of the cosmos.